Now, I know that I want to make a comment because my wife sees these videos and she goes, oh my God, you are such a mess. You're dirty all over. We're in the body shop business, but I get to work on really, really cool cars. I have a GTO here. I have a Cutlass 442. We've got a real GT40. I've got a 56 Corvette. All really, really cool cars. So I hope you're okay with me getting dirty on camera because this is a messy, messy job. And I love talking about all of the things that we're doing here. And it is fun for me. This is really fun for me. It's therapeutic to explain the process of what we're doing in this trade to make a paint job look so beautiful. The passion of color sanding and polishing, the absolute most important part of a restoration paint job. I know that's hard to believe, but if you don't get this right, you will never get the prep work right, or the paint work right, or the clear coating right, or any of the other aspects that it takes to refinish a custom car. When you do this properly, you find all your mistakes in how you painted it, how much clear you put on. Was it straight enough before you started to block sand with a block? The passion of color sanding and polishing. I guess it all starts when we were doing regular cars. A Honda, a Toyota, a Ford, a Chevy, a Chrysler. And we learned how to color sand and polish. Sometimes we over color sanded it. So the panel we painted looked better than the rest of the car. Most of the time in the collision trade, we want to make it look like the car was never damaged. But in the restoration trade, we want to take it way beyond what Pontiac on this 69 GTO did way back in 1969. They tried. With the amount of labor that they could spend on a 1969 GTO, it was a beautiful car. But now, today, this car is worth 10 times what this car cost in 1969. So I get an opportunity to put a lot of thought into color sanding and polishing. That's what we're going to talk about right now. How do you get a car so perfectly straight from blocking the clear coat? If you do this right, and if you spray the clear right, and if you spray the base coat right, and if you spray the primer right, and if you do the body work perfectly, this is all going to come out to be unbelievable. And when the customer looks at the repair that we're doing, everybody's happy. There's no ripples, there's no waves. The metallic is perfect from top to bottom. And everything that we did in the restoration part of this car, he is completely happy and wanting to show it off. So with CSIpolish, we know that. We know that all of this is a passion. Is it necessary? No, it's not. But it is so, so fun. You can basically turn off your mind and just do all the labor, because it is labor, labor, labor. And hopefully, and even though I've been doing this for almost 50 years, I can tell you that I really don't charge enough money for color sanding and polishing. I love color sanding and polishing. I try to get paid for what I'm doing, but more times than not, I'm putting extra time into the bottom edges, into block sanding it. Can I get it a little bit straighter? And then when I get the opportunity to polish out what I did, it just makes me so happy. And I know it makes the customers happy too. So this is a little bit different than production work, but there's no way that I could do this if I didn't understand production work. I'm going to start on this car. This is a PPG paint, water-based, enviro-based base coat, and we put EC530 clear on this surface. If you know anything about PPG paint, you know they've been in business a long, long time, and the EC530 is their very high-end clear. So when you use it for restoration work, get ready for a lot of work. It is super, super hard to work with, meaning it's going to take a lot of labor. But when I go to polish it out, it's unbelievable. If you sprayed it right, there is absolutely no solvent popping at all on the surface. So I can cut it really, really hard and get a crystal clear finish all the way to the base coat. On this car, I sprayed 3 coats of the EC530 urethane clear. That is plenty of clear to start what we're going to talk about right now, the process for color sanding and polishing. When I come back, we'll go through step 1, then we'll cut, we'll go through step 2, step 3, all the way to the point of using a wool pad and a foam pad to polish out our work. So I'm going to start with Sunmight 1000 grit sandpaper. Now I built this whole paint job from the body work to the base coat to the clear coat to how I'm going to start my color sanding and polishing. This paint job requires that I go pretty deep. 1000 grit is pretty deep. On our most expensive paint jobs, I start with 500 grit. Obviously that's a lot more labor, a lot more time, but on this paint job, which is a very, very nice paint job, I'm going to start with 1000 grit Sunmight sandpaper. Now, what do you use? A soft block, semi-rigid, no curling, very nice block, made by Durablock, or a hard stick. I like the hard stick when I use 1000 grit sandpaper. I'm only going to go this aggressive with this hard of a surface one time on the surface. So it is very, very important that I put as hard an edge into this surface, and then I go to 1500 grit with a soft block, and then 2000 and 2500 would be my final sand for a restoration paint job. So I'm using a water bottle, wet the paper, and I'm staying in a straight line. Very important that we stay in a straight line. And the paper will actually start to stick to the surface as they start to mate together. You're going to take all the orange peel out, any dirt nibs, and it really starts to get firm. Then you know you've really taken that surface to a straightened stick finish. Squeegee it off. And we have a very, very nice finish. The thing I like about the stick over a piece of plastic is when I'm sanding, if I get up on the edge and the edge of the stick hits the surface, I don't have to worry about putting a mark into that surface. especially like these radiuses on a GTO. As I'm blocking into here, I do still want to stay straight without cross-hatching that, just to make sure that the radius is real nice when I'm color sanding. And all of this makes a big difference when you finalize this with 2500 and then you hit it with the CSIpolish. Nothing worse than seeing orange peel or fatness or even the edges of a block in the color sanding process. It will cost you paint shows if you don't get this process perfect. So that is the first step. So now we're going to go on to step number 2. So this is step 2 in the color sanding process. We've hit this whole entire area with the hard stick and 1000 grit Sunmight sandpaper. Now, a semi-firm block, I don't know if this has a part number, but this is a really nice block. I really like it that it stays straight. It's not warping, and it's got a really strange plastic or rubber to it. I like it. It's nice, Durablock. They're inexpensive, and you can buy them at all the paint stores. 2000 grit Sunmight sandpaper. We've already done our hard block. There's no need to hard block any longer. And you can see, when I did that B-roll, you can see the quarter panel starting to shine now. Really starts to get exciting. All this body work and paint work that we did on this car, now we're getting close to finalizing the car. Real tight, wrap the sandpaper really tight. Water bottle, I like the water bottle. Nice and straight. Again, because if I did get any edges with that hard block, this soft block's now going to knock down any imperfections in my first block sanding that I did. The paper will start to get sticky as the surfaces start to mate. The 2000 or the 1000 grit starts to turn into a 2000 grit area, and it starts to make the paper get sticky. That's how you know you're getting close. So I always go one sand past that. Ran out of water, but that's okay. We can finish this up. Whew, you can see how sticky that's getting. So. And it'll actually start to look differently than the 1000 grit area. When I get into 2500, it'll start to shine. So that is the second step in color sanding. We've got this now in 2000. Now I'll turn the whole quarter panel into 2000. Actually, I'm just going down the whole side of the car so that when I start to buff, I can just do the whole car. We'll do the buffing on camera on the area that we're doing right here just to show all the steps. But this is now 1000 grit. This is in 2000 grit, and you can't maybe see it on camera, but this looks a little whiter, a little duller than this. This starts to bring up that orange color a little bit more because the clarity is getting closer to scratch-free. We're obviously not scratch-free yet. We're in 2000 grit and totally could buff it from here, but I like to take my restoration paint work to 2500. One, it's going to buff really easy. I don't want to be fighting scratches when I start to do this. And I'm looking to make sure that my body work looks perfect too. I'm looking at the shine on the surface. I want to make sure that all my body work, and that's the difference between maybe just taking this to somebody who color sands and polishes. If he's not the painter, he's not going to be looking at the bodywork because that's not his job. But I'm the body man, I'm the painter, and I bet a lot of you are too. So this process, this is how I do it, this is how I've learned over the years. You know, my dad taught me the basics, And then I, had a restoration shop for over 30 years in the peak of the car craze here in Southern California. So I got to work on a lot of really, really cool cars and learn how to do color sanding and polishing. And it is absolutely my pleasure to talk to you guys about it free of charge. I love doing this. I love this part. This is my artistry. This is how I express my artistry in this trade. And we get to use our polish on the end. So now we'll go on to 2500 grit after I color sand the whole panel with 2000. All right, step 3 in the color sanding process. Now, you can see I tri-folded the sandpaper. 2500 grit Sunmight sandpaper. So let's start the process. You can see how good it looks already now that we've got this whole area into 2000 grit. Now we're going to hit it with 2500 grit. And the only thing we're really doing is turning that 2000 grit into 2500 grit now. I think the coolest thing too, if you've never done this before, is you get to see how much labor it is. But when you see these amazing paint jobs at car shows, you can appreciate what it takes to really get them there. They didn't come out of the spray gun like that. It takes a lot of labor to do color sanding and polishing and make that paint look so wet and smooth. It's slipping along really nicely now. And you notice I don't play any music. I don't want the distractions, and I'm listening for any dirt that might get in between the water and the sandpaper. Because there is a lot of money in this whole process when you take the account of the paint and primer and all the labor. There is a lot of money that we're working with right here. So I don't want to damage it in any way, shape, or form. So you'll see it start to dry, and it's almost shiny. At 2500 grit, we're almost shiny. Now I'll sand the rest of the car down to 2500 grit, and then we'll start the buffing process and look at the labor that we put into this. All right, the fun part. When I started working for my dad, I thought the moment that I started working there at 10, 12 years old, I would be painting cars. That's what I thought. I want to do the fun stuff. As I got older, this would have been one of those things that I wanted to do, but you don't get to do this, the buffing stage, until you've done everything else. So we've been working on this car for a couple months, and it is going to be so much fun to bring this up, and it's going to look so easy, but it really is a lot of labor to get to this stage, and I can't wait to show you what the side of the car looks like. We looked at the side of the car in the 2500 grit. It looks nice, it looks shiny, the door fits good to the fender. And this isn't a restoration, this is just fixing this side of the car. The other side is 100% original. So the door doesn't fit quite perfect, but it's okay. This side was, repaired in the 70s and not really repaired well. So the customer, because he just wants to drive the car, he's got a lot of other trailer queens, and he doesn't want to turn this one into a trailer queen. So we're just going to paint this side of the car, and now we're going to buff it. So most of you know CSI is, products that we have, and we just came out with a new product. Now I call it production, but you know what? It works really, really good for this side too. Do we need the extra cut? No. We're taking out 2,500 grit. I can almost take that up with my finger rubbing on the surface. So this is going to be very easy to buff. I want you to watch a couple things that we tried to fix in this product. One, I want more cutting ability. I do not want to lose the gloss, and we didn't. Everybody says that the gloss is every bit as good as the original Ceram-XX polish. This one is Ceram-XX polish. A little bit different, part number 62303. We only have this available in quarts right now. I will be putting this into gallons. It costs a little bit more money than ceramics, but it's unbelievable. So I want you to watch the dust. I want you to watch how nice and clean it stays. The working time is unbelievable. And we're going to get started. I'm going to do this area right here as the first stage in polishing. Then I'm going to get up off my hind end where I'm sitting because I want to sit on camera. I'm going to buff the whole side of the car, and you're going to see what it looks like after being buffed. So the first step will be wool pad. Then I will go on to DA polishing. You won't see that on camera. I just want to show you how fast this comes up from 2,500 grit. And if you know anybody who sprays PPG clear, they will tell you that EC530 is unbelievably hard to buff. The trick is color sanding it perfectly. Started with 1,000, went to, where do we go? 1,000, 2,000, 2,500. The trick is color sanding it perfectly. Color sand it and take out all of the orange peel. Make that clear as straight as possible. When I'm looking down to the side of the car, it just looks so pretty. That's all because of 1,000 grit with the stick. Then we go to 2,000 grit with a block, a foam block, a rubber hard block, the Durablock that I showed you. Then we go tri-folded, 2,500, and that's what you're looking at here. So watch how quickly this very good clear EC530 buffs up. Apply the product to the pad. This pad is nice and clean. I've got it here. I want to inject it inside the pad. We didn't spray anything. I got one little speckle right there, but as long as you hold it flat, it's not going to go anywhere. Now you can come up on edge. No dust, a little bit of schmang left on the surface here, that's okay. Wipe it off. I'll come in tight with the camera so you can see what it looks like. It looks unbelievable. So I don't want to make any cuts. I don't want you to think I'm cheating here. Look at the finish. Really nice. There's where we didn't buff. There's where we did buff. Really, really nice. You can't see any trenches from the sandpaper scratches. You can see the reflection. It's a nice day outside here in California. And you look at that finish. That is just, and it's nice and clean. It's not greasy. And there's no splatter anywhere. No dust. So this is our new polish, Ceram-XX. Comes up really easy. Obviously, we color sanded it a lot. This is 4 or 5 hours with the color sanding on the car, so it does come up easy. But you don't need compound. You never, why would I want to put compound on a surface that's in 2,500 grit? I'm just gonna, this is This is the worst it's going to look. This is a wool pad and this product. Now, when I hit this with foam, bam, this thing is going to just jump. So we're going to hit it with the DA and a foam pad. You know what? I'll just do it real quick on camera so you can see it. Okay, so now we're going to go on to foam pad polishing. As you know, if you've been watching our videos, we don't recommend using a rotary any longer for finishing. You only use the rotary for removing the scratches. Now, we're going to use a foam pad, a 5-inch foam pad that has a 15 millimeter stroke. So it's 15 millimeter at the top and the bottom and the sides, which, you know, adds 15 millimeters is almost a half an inch. So it adds an inch to this pad. So this pad turns into a 6-inch pad when you're polishing. So just a couple drops. You don't need any more than that. It's super thick. It'll work perfect right here. No dust at all. Go over it a couple times. You've got the product still left behind on here. That's important. You can't really buff dry with this product. Now you wipe it off, and we are going to look at this whole car. I'm now going to go down the side on this thing and take out all the scratches, all the 2500 grit, and really work on making this thing look pretty. And then we'll take a look at the side glossy. So stay tuned. Woo-wee! This was fun. 4 or 5 hours to fully color sand, quarter panel, door, and front fender. All with this new product, Ceram-XX. It was able to take out the 2500 with ease, and it left a perfect finish with a foam pad. No need to ever buy compound again. So check us out, CSI Ceram-XX.